Okay, so first for this tutorial what you need to do is download the Anagram database, and if it's in a zip, unzip it. What there is one table and one form for this. Anagrams table, which has an ID column with a primary key, an anagram column, and an answer column. So anagram LEHOL is obviously an anagram of hello. And if we look in design view, you can see that ID is primary key and it's going to be unique. We're making an assumption here that there's always going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically that all the numbers will just go up in ascending order and there won't be any missing numbers. So it's a little assumption we're making just to keep it simple when we create our anagram game. So what we've got is this form called Ragaman, and what we want to do is this bit of text here. That is going to display the anagram. We type in our guess, answer it. If we guess it right, it is going to change and put something different in, put out a new word. So if we look at the finished version, which I'm just going to open up. So let's just get this up and running. Enable the content. So I've got my anagram, you can see it's going in here. I'm just going to type in something random. Guess, it's telling me I got it wrong. If I get this one right, and guess it, just put correct. Obviously, God would have also been correct, but we've kept it simple for this one. Then, because we got it right, it's giving us our second anagram. And what it does is it just randomly picks one of those 5. So there will be, sometimes you get the same word. And that is what we're going to be producing during this exercise. So now we're back in here. Anagrams table, that is entirely complete. So what we're going to do now is go into our design view of the form and get this up and running. And so the first thing what we want to do is basically load all the anagrams and into the program so that when we actually run it, it will change this to a different anagram. What we'll notice is I've given them all nice labels. So this is called anagram label. What I'm going to do is click on the background of the main form, click on event, and we want this to happen as soon as this form opens up. So we're going to do on load. Click on the ellipses, choose code builder. Let's just shrink this down so we can see it all in the window. Okay, so I've now got my private sub form load. Now I need to create a few variables. What I need to do is set this up. So what we need to do is from our table, in order to get the lowest and highest, to work out the random number, we need to get the lowest number here and the highest. So in order to achieve that, what we're going to do is create a couple of variables. One called lower bound as an integer, because that is the same type as what we had before, and another one called upper bound. So these will end up storing the lowest and highest values that are in that table. Okay, we also need another integer which will handle our random number. So I'm just going to create this now so it's all nice and set up right at the beginning. Obviously you should be putting in comments to explain this. Now we need to basically link it up to our database table. So we need a string variable to store our SQL, and we also need to create our variable to store the record set. So I'm just going to use rs for record set, and because it's linked to our anagrams table, I'm going to put in anagrams as DAO, so data access object record set. So that will create the variables that we need. Now we're going to create our string. Now we're not going to use a very efficient SQL string here because we want to do a bit of searching later on to make the VBA code a little bit more evident, which will be useful for if you have to prove anything in coursework. So I'm selecting star, so everything from the anagrams table. So if you notice here, that is the name of our table. You might want to put this in square brackets, because if you have spaces it makes it a lot easier to find. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're going to link it up. So set rs anagrams to current database dot open record set, and then we're going to give it that string. So we've assumed that the search is actually correct, and what we've got there is the record set created and linked up. Now the first thing we're going to do, we're going to make an assumption here that there's actually something already in the table. You might need to do some other testing to basically see if it is already at the end of the file. But we're going to assume that there's something in there. So we're going to move to the first position. Oh, lower bound, make sure it's spelled correctly. Is assigned to anagrams. Remember, exclamation mark gets the information from it. ID, because we're at the first record, and what we're going to do is search our way through it. And we're also assuming that the upper bound is the same at the moment. Because remember, these numbers in here could be in different orders. So what we're doing is just getting the first record, getting the ID, and setting this to basically the lower and upper. Then the next record we get will be this one, and we'll go and match them up. Then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth, and then we'll go to the end. But if these had, different numbers, and they weren't in order, it'll get to this one, and then you can sort of go through and modify the upper and lower bounds. But we're just going to assume that these are actually in the correct order. But it doesn't make any difference to our code. So we've got this, so we've got the lower bound to start with. Now we need to go all the way through the list. So do while we are not at the end of the list. So dot end of file. I'm just going to put in the loop command because now we want to do all the code in between here. Now we need to check if bound is less than, or actually, no, not less than, more than the current ID. So if rs, actually, lower bound, we can actually do this in different ways, is more than rs anagrams. If lower bound is more than rs anagrams ID, then we need to do something. Or do we? Actually no, let's write it the other way around because it's going to make more sense. If the current ID is less than the lower bound, what we want to do is replace it. Then the lower bound is going to become rs anagrams ID. Now we're going to do a very similar thing, but for the upper bound, if rs anagrams ID is more than upper bound, then upper bound is assigned to rs anagrams. Finally, we need to move on to the next one. Rs anagrams dot move next. We'll get the next one, and then we'll keep proceeding through until we get to the end of the file. So that's getting our different anagrams. Now we're going to deal with this random variable. So now we know the minimum number in lower bound and the upper number. So now we can create a random number of any number between that. So we're going to assign random to be an integer. I'm going to use a few sort of brackets here just to help out our maths a little bit. Upper bound minus lower bound minus lower bound plus 1 because we've got a little bit of an overlap, times R&D is a random number generator plus lower bound this is taken straight from Microsoft's website to basically work out the lower bound. There's little bits of logic you probably want to look for, and work out yourselves and document what's actually going on here and looking at the values. That will sort of work for us. Now, we've got this random number, and we need to get the answer. We can overwrite what's currently called the Sql string. We want to select everything from the anagrams table again. This time we're going to actually match it up, where the ID, remember it's spelled exactly the same as what we had in the field, ampersand joins it together, and random, so that will join this bit of text and put whatever the random number was onto the end, and we'll save that. Now we're going to set rs anagrams dot not move next, move first, because I'm assuming it's going to find one. Once again, you want to do error checking this normally. Set rs anagrams. I need to actually run the query again. Current DB dot open record set, and we're going to pass the Sql string again, so bring up the information. Now, next step is assuming we've actually got it, so this is what I just did before. Dot move first, assume we get the first one. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to leave that for a little bit and update the label. Remember, there's lots of different ways to write this, so I'm going to just put me.anagram label just because it's easy to find the information. Caption gets the information that's written on that label, is assigned to rs anagrams !anagram, which gets whatever. So it'll find, let's say the random number was 3, it'll get TAC. Okay, so I'm going to save that and test it, and hopefully it will work for us. So I'm just going to close everything down, open it up, and yes, it is working. Close it again, open it again. Yep, it's getting different words. Very cool. But our guess doesn't work. So now what we need to do is go to design view on the form, click on the guess, on event, unclick on the ellipses, code builder, and now we're going to work on some code here. But at the moment we don't actually know where the answer is, so what we're going to do is create a global variable. So we're going to go right up to the top, before private sub, which is the first function. We're going to make a global variable, so because it's outside of the function it can be seen here. We're going to call it answer, and it's going to be a string. And we're going to go back down to our code. We're inside the form load procedure to the point where we've found our move first. What we're going to do is store into the answer anagrams ! I need to remember what it is. Answer. Don't worry if it changes to a lowercase, so that's going to store the answer in that variable. Now we're going to use a few little if statements. So if me.anagram guess was the name of my little box. Yes, if I look here, I can see that's called anagram guess. If it is equal to what is stored in answer, then I want to do something. Otherwise I want to do something else. End if. So, if they match, we're in a message box. with a well done message. Otherwise we have a message box with an error. So what we're going to do is just run that, check it, good, works right if we got the right word, but it's not changing to something else. But we're getting the two correct options. But we now need something else to happen if we get it correct. There's a few different things we could do. We could wipe it out and then, manually run, that code again. But because the code works when we open it up, what we're going to do is just close the window using do command.close. If we want to close the form, we use AC form, and then we use the name of the form. And then we just want to open it again. Open form and give it the name. So let's save it. Yep, it's wrong, it's wrong. And if we get it right, it goes correct, closes it, reopens it. Okay, now we've got that entirely working. What I want you should do now is go and modify, edit the code, look at how you can improve it, take screenshots, comment it, and then see if you can build all the tables entirely from scratch. Maybe even link in a login form that when you log in, it goes and actually opens up one of these pages. Okay, enjoy.